The courtroom was made of crystal. Light passed through the walls and made everything glow with a cold blue color. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Vance stood in the center of this beautiful room. But he felt no beauty. His wrists were locked in energy shackles. His heart was beating fast. And 12 alien judges sat above him, looking down with eyes that held no mercy. The Valorians were tall and thin. Their skin was pale gray, and their eyes were completely black. They had ruled this part of the galaxy for 10,000 years. To them, humans were nothing. Humans were children who had just learned to walk among the stars. Marcus was 32 years old. He had spent his whole adult life trying to build bridges between Earth and the alien races. He believed in peace. He believed in understanding. He had never hurt anyone in his life. Now they were going to destroy his mind for a crime he did not commit. Marcus Vance of Earth, the head judge said. His voice was cold and flat. You have been found guilty of the murder of Lady Thessia, daughter of Archon Savethi. The evidence against you is complete. Your guilt is certain. Marcus wanted to scream. He wanted to tell them that the evidence was fake. The security footage had been changed. Someone had put his DNA at the crime scene. He had been on the other side of the station when the girl died. But he had already said all of this. No one had listened. The sentence is erasure, the judge continued. Your consciousness will be taken apart, piece by piece, over 7 galactic cycles. Your body will remain alive, but you will be gone. This is the justice of the Valorian High Tribunal. The guards grabbed Marcus by the arms. As they dragged him away, he looked back at the judges one last time. He saw something that made his blood turn cold. High Inquisitor Thesson, the prosecutor who had built the case against him, was smiling. It was a small smile, barely visible. But Marcus saw it. And in that moment, he understood the truth. This was never about justice. This was about politics. Earth had been asking for a seat on the Galactic Concord, the great council that ruled the known universe. The Valorians did not want humans at that table, so they had found a way to make humanity look like murderers. Like savages. Like creatures who could never be trusted. Marcus had been chosen as the sacrifice. The doors closed behind him, and the crystal courtroom disappeared from view. 12,000 light-years away, on a planet called Earth, it was winter in Siberia. Snow covered the ground like a white blanket. The trees were bare and black against the gray sky. And in a small cabin in the middle of nowhere, a woman sat alone by the fire. Her name was Elena Vance. She was 57 years old. Her hair was gray now, and her face had lines from years of living. But her eyes were still sharp, still clear, still dangerous, if you knew what to look for. She was drinking tea and reading a book about flowers when the message came. Her secure terminal, hidden in a drawer she rarely opened, made a soft sound. Elena put down her tea. She put down her book. She walked to the drawer and looked at the screen. The message was simple, just a few words. But those words changed everything. Marcus Vance. Convicted. Sentence. Erasure. Valorian High Tribunal. Elena read the message 3 times. Her hands did not shake. Her face did not change. But something inside her went very, very quiet. It was the kind of quiet that comes before a storm. She had one son. Just one. She had given up everything to raise him right. She had walked away from a life of blood and shadows so that he could grow up in the light. She had taught him to be kind, to be good, to believe in peace. And now they had taken him anyway. Elena closed the drawer. She walked to the center of her cabin and stood very still for a long moment. Outside, the wind was blowing through the trees. Inside, there was only silence. Then she moved. She went to a spot in the floor near the back wall. She pressed a hidden switch, and a panel slid open. Beneath the panel was a metal case. She had not opened this case in 23 years. She had hoped she would never open it again, but hope was a luxury she could no longer afford. Inside the case was a suit. It was black, made of materials that did not officially exist. Next to the suit were tools, weapons, and data chips, filled with secrets that could destroy governments. And at the bottom, wrapped in cloth, was a mask. Elena picked up the mask and looked at it. It was white and featureless. Simple, clean, the face of no one and everyone. 25 years ago, she had worn this mask across 12 star systems. Intelligence agencies had files on her that were sealed at the highest levels. Alien governments had spent fortunes trying to find her, stop her, kill her. They called her the Winter Protocol. They thought she was dead. The whole galaxy thought she was dead. Elena had made sure of that. She had erased herself from existence so that she could become someone new. Someone peaceful. Someone who grew flowers and drank tea and loved her son. But the galaxy had made a terrible mistake. They had touched her child. Elena put the mask back in the case. She would not need it yet. First, she needed to prepare. She needed to gather information. She needed to remember all the old skills she had buried so deep. She walked to her window and looked out at the snow. Her reflection stared back at her. A ghost in the glass. The Valorians thought they understood humans. They had studied human history and seen wars, violence, chaos. They thought humans were emotional and impulsive, easy to predict, easy to control. They were wrong. Humans were patient. Humans could wait. And when someone took what they loved, humans did not stop until they got it back. Elena thought about her son, alone in some alien prison, waiting to have his mind torn apart. She thought about the judges who had condemned him. She thought about High Inquisitor Thesson and his small, satisfied smile. None of them knew what was coming. None of them had any idea. Elena Vance turned away from the window. She had work to do. Calls to make. Old debts to collect. A galaxy to remind why they used to fear her name. They had convicted her son guilty. Now Earth's coldest killer was going to knock on their door. Elena began her preparations the same night. She did not sleep. She did not rest. She sat at her terminal and started reaching out to ghosts. The first call went to a man named Victor. He lived in a station orbiting Neptune and worked as a shipping coordinator. At least, that was what his records said. In truth, Victor ran the largest smuggling network in the solar system. He owed Elena his life 3 times over. "I need transport to the Valorian sector," Elena said. No greeting. No small talk. Untraceable. Within the week, there was silence on the other end. Then Victor's voice, rough and careful. "Elena? Is that really you? I thought you were dead." "Yes, I need that transport, Victor." Another pause. "Whatever you need, I'll have the route ready in 2 days." She ended the call and made another. Then another. By morning, she had contacted 14 people across 6 star systems. Some were old friends. Some were old enemies who feared her more than they hated her. All of them agreed to help. While she worked, memories came back to her. Memories she had tried to bury for 25 years. She remembered the day she had been recruited. She was 22 years old, fresh out of medical school, brilliant and angry, and ready to change the world. A man in a gray suit had visited her apartment and told her that Earth needed people like her. Special people. People who could do hard things in dark places. The program was called Black Solstice. It did not exist on any official record. Its purpose was simple. When diplomacy failed and war was not an option, Black Solstice provided a third choice: targeted removal. Elena had been good at her job, better than anyone before or since. She could read people like books. She could find weaknesses that others could not see. And when the time came, she could end a threat so cleanly that no one even knew it had happened. Her first mission was a Kreth warlord named Grovok. He had ordered the orbital bombardment of New Helsinki, killing 40,000 human colonists. The United Earth Council wanted justice, but they could not risk open war with the Kreth Empire. So they sent Elena. She spent 3 months studying Grovok. She learned his habits, his fears, his secrets. She discovered that he had a heart condition that his doctors were keeping quiet. One night, she slipped into his compound. Past 50 armed guards, and injected him with a compound that made his heart stop. The doctors called it natural causes. No one suspected a thing. That was the beginning. Over the next 10 years, Elena completed 17 missions. Each one was a puzzle. Each one required patience, intelligence, and a willingness to do what others could not. The syndicate boss, who sold human children to alien labor camps. The Valorian admiral who wanted to contain humanity to a single system. The corrupt diplomat who was feeding Earth's secrets to hostile powers. All of them died. None of them saw her coming. They called her the Winter Protocol because she was cold, patient, and invisible. Like winter itself, she came without warning, and by the time you felt the chill, it was already too late. But then something changed. Elena met a man named David. He was a teacher, simple and kind, and full of light. He made her laugh. He made her feel human again. And when she discovered she was pregnant, Elena made a choice. She walked away. Leaving Black Solstice was not easy. People in her position did not retire. They knew too much. They were too dangerous. But Elena had made friends in high places. She had also collected secrets about everyone, including her own bosses. They agreed to let her go. She faked her death in a shuttle accident. She erased her old identity. She became Dr. Elena Vance, xenobiologist, and moved to a small cabin in Siberia with her husband and her growing belly. David died when Marcus was 12. A car accident. Real, this time, not arranged. Elena raised Marcus alone after that. She taught him about science and nature. She taught him about kindness and hope. She never told him about the blood on her hands. Marcus grew up good. He joined the diplomatic corps and worked to build peace between Earth and the alien races. He believed in the best of people. He believed in the future, and now he was going to die in a Valorian prison for a crime he did not commit. Elena finished her preparations after 3 days. She had transport arranged, identity papers created, and equipment gathered. She had studied everything available about Valorian society, their justice system, and the people responsible for her son's conviction. High Inquisitor Thesson was the main architect of the case against Marcus. He was ambitious and political. He wanted to rise higher in the Valorian government, and destroying humanity's reputation was his ladder. Judge Vathorn had signed the erasure order. He was old and corrupt. He had secrets he wanted to keep hidden. Archon Savethi was the real power behind everything. His daughter, Lady Thessia, had died from a drug overdose at the diplomatic summit. But Savethi could not allow the truth to come out. It would destroy his family's honor. So he found a convenient human to blame. Marcus was in the wrong place at the wrong time. That was his only crime. Elena packed a single bag. She looked around her cabin one last time. The flowers on the windowsill. The books on the shelves. The photographs of Marcus as a child. Smiling and innocent. She would come back to this place. She would bring her son with her. Or she would not come back at all. Outside, a shuttle was waiting to take her to Victor's transport ship. Elena walked through the snow, her boots making soft sounds on the white ground. The cold wind touched her face, but she did not feel it. She had become the cold a long time ago. The Valorians had technology that could see through walls. They had scanners that could read brain patterns. They had security systems designed by the greatest minds in the galaxy. But they had never faced someone like Elena Vance. They had forgotten what humans were capable of when pushed too far. They had forgotten that the most dangerous creature in the universe was not the one with the sharpest claws or the biggest weapons. It was the one with nothing left to lose. Elena boarded the shuttle. The door closed behind her. And somewhere in the Valorian sector, completely unaware of the storm approaching, High Inquisitor Thesson was celebrating his victory. He would not be celebrating for much longer. Valoria Prime was a world of perfect order. The cities were clean and white. The streets were straight and wide. Everything had its place. Everything followed rules. Elena arrived through a smuggler's route that she had used 30 years ago. The route went through an old mining station that the Valorians had abandoned centuries back. From there, She caught a cargo transport that brought supplies to the outer districts of the capital city. Getting onto Valoria Prime was supposed to be impossible for humans. The Valorians had the most advanced security systems in the galaxy. Every port had biometric scanners that could identify any known species. Every checkpoint had behavior readers that could detect lies and nervousness. Some locations even had psychics who could sense hostile intentions. Elena passed through all of them without trouble. She did not use technology to hide. She did not hack their systems. She simply walked through their security like it was not there. The secret was understanding how the Valorians thought. They had designed their security to catch aliens acting suspiciously. Their scanners looked for fear, for nervousness, for hesitation. They expected threats to look like threats. Elena did not look like a threat. She looked like a tired human tourist who was slightly confused by the alien customs. She smiled at the guards. She asked simple questions about directions. She acted exactly like what they expected a harmless human to act like. The Valorians believed that humans were emotional and easy to read. They thought humans could not control their faces or their body language. They thought humans were like open books. They had never met a human who had been trained to become invisible. Elena found a small room in a quiet part of the city. She paid cash and used a fake identity. Then she began to work. For 3 days, she watched and learned. She followed the people involved in her son's conviction. She studied their routines, their habits, their weaknesses. She gathered information from public records and private sources. She built a complete picture of each target. Judge Vaythorn was the weakest link. He was old and tired. He had signed the erasure order because Thesson had pressured him. Not because he believed Marcus was guilty. He had secrets that he wanted to protect, money he had stolen over the years, a second family living on a colony world that no one knew about. He was afraid. Elena could use fear. On the 4th night, she made her move. Vaythorn lived in a tall building in the wealthy district. His apartment was on the top floor, protected by guards and security systems. The building had scanners at every entrance and cameras in every hallway. Elena did not go through the entrance. She climbed the outside of the building. The walls were smooth and sheer, designed to be impossible to climb. But Elena had equipment that could find tiny holds in any surface. She had trained for 30 years to do things that were supposed to be impossible. The climb took 2 hours. She moved slowly, carefully, never making a sound. The wind was cold at that height, and the ground was very far below. One mistake would mean death. She did not make any mistakes. At the top, she found a window that led to a maintenance area. The lock was complicated, but she had seen this type before. She opened it in less than a minute. Then she was inside. Vaythorn's apartment was large and full of expensive things. Alien art on the walls, rare plants in crystal containers. Everything was meant to show how important and powerful he was. Elena walked through the rooms like a ghost. She found Vaythorn in his study, sitting alone, drinking something blue from a tall glass. He was reading reports on a screen, and his face looked tired and old. She knocked on the doorframe. Vaythorn jumped so hard that he spilled his drink. He turned around and saw Elena standing there, calm and still, her hands empty at her sides. "Good evening, Your Honor," she said. Her voice was soft and polite. "I believe we need to discuss my son's appeal." For a moment, Vaythorn could not speak. His mouth opened and closed. His eyes were wide with shock and fear. He looked at the human woman in his private apartment, a place that was supposed to be impossible to reach, and he could not understand what he was seeing. How did you?" he whispered. "That does not matter," Elena said. She walked into the room and sat down in a chair across from him. Her movements were relaxed, like she was visiting a friend. "What matters is that I am here, and we need to talk." Vaythorn's hand moved toward a button on his desk. An alarm. "I would not do that," Elena said. Her voice did not change. "If you call your guards, I will be gone before they arrive. And then I will have to come back another night. Next time, I will not be so friendly." His hand stopped. "What do you want?" he asked. Elena smiled. It was a cold smile, like winter sunlight. I want my son. Marcus Vance. You signed the order to erase his mind. You knew he was innocent. You did it anyway. I had no choice, Vathorn said. His voice was shaking. Thesson brought the evidence. The Archon wanted a conviction. What could I do? You could have done the right thing. Elena leaned forward. But you did not. You chose to destroy an innocent man to protect your position. Your comfort. Your secrets. Vathorn's face went pale. Secrets? What secrets? Elena reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. She pressed a button, and images appeared in the air between them. Financial records. Messages. Photographs of a woman and 2 children living on a distant colony world. Your second family, Elena said. The money you have been stealing for 30 years. The bribes you have taken. The cases you have fixed. She paused. I found all of it in 2 days. Imagine what I could find in a week. Vathorn looked like he was going to be sick. Please, he said. I have children. If this comes out, then help me, Elena said. Help me free my son. And your secrets stay secret. Refuse. And I will destroy everything you have built. Your career. Your family. Your reputation. All of it. Gone. I will burn your life to ashes, and I will not lose 1 minute of sleep. The old judge stared at her. He saw no mercy in her eyes. No doubt. Just cold. Absolute certainty. What do you need? He whispered. Elena told him. Access codes. Security schedules. Information about the erasure facility. Names of people who could be convinced to help. Vathorn gave her everything. When she left, disappearing back into the night like she had never been there, the old judge sat alone in his study for a long time. His hands were shaking. His drink was forgotten. He had seen many dangerous things in his long life. But he had never seen anything like the human woman who had appeared in his home like a ghost and spoken to him with a voice like ice. He understood now why the old stories said that humans were to be feared. Not because they were strong or fast or powerful, but because when they wanted something badly enough, nothing in the universe could stop them. The winter protocol had come to Valoria Prime, and the cold was just beginning to spread. High Inquisitor Thesson woke up on the 5th day to find that something was wrong. His personal files had been accessed. Someone had gone through his private records, his messages, his financial accounts. They had not taken anything. They had not changed anything. They had just looked, and they had left a small token on his bedside table. It was a human coin, old and worn, made of copper. On one side was a picture of a human building. On the other side was a year, 1943. Thesson stared at the coin for a long time. His bedroom was locked. His guards were outside. The security systems showed no entry, but someone had been in his room while he slept. He called his security chief. He demanded answers. But there were no answers. The cameras showed nothing. The sensors showed nothing. It was as if a ghost had walked through his walls. Thesson told himself it was nothing. A prank, a mistake. He threw the coin away and went to work. The next night, his most secret messages began appearing in the hands of his political rivals. Conversations where he had said bad things about powerful people. Plans he had made to betray his allies. Little by little, his support started to fall apart. The night after that, his investments began to fail. Companies he had secretly put money into started losing value. Stock prices dropped. Money disappeared. The night after that, his mistress vanished. She left no message, no explanation. She was just gone. And every night, there was a new token. A paper crane, folded from human newspaper. A photograph of his childhood home. A child's drawing of a snowflake. Thesson stopped sleeping. He doubled his guards. He installed new security systems. He scanned every room, every corner, every shadow. It did not matter. The tokens kept appearing, and the messages kept leaking. and his life kept falling apart, piece by piece. Like a building being taken down one brick at a time. He did not know who was hunting him. He only knew that he was prey. Meanwhile, Elena was preparing for the next stage of her plan. Judge Vathorn had given her everything she needed. She knew where Marcus was being held, a place called the Erasure Facility, hidden in a mountain range 1,000 kilometers from the capital. It was the most secure prison in Valorian space. No one had ever escaped from it. No one had ever broken in. Elena could not free Marcus alone. The facility had too many guards, too many systems, too many layers of protection. She needed a distraction, something big enough to pull the entire security force away from the prison, so she decided to tear down the Valorian government. Over the past week, she had gathered evidence, files from Vathorn, records stolen from secure databases, testimony from people who were afraid to stay silent. She had built a complete picture of what had really happened to Lady Thessia. The truth was simple. The girl had died from a drug overdose. She had been addicted to a substance called Midnight Blue, popular among wealthy young Valorians. At the diplomatic summit, she had taken too much. Her heart stopped, but Archon Savethi could not let this truth come out. His family's honor depended on the lie, so he found a human to blame. He had Thesson build a fake case. He had Vathorn sign the order, and he buried his daughter's shame under Marcus's destroyed life. Elena released the first wave of evidence on the 10th night. She sent the files to journalists, to opposition politicians, to anyone who would listen. The story spread like fire. Lady Thessia was not murdered. Lady Thessia died from drugs. The human was innocent. The trial was a lie. The Valorian public was shocked. Then they were angry. The second wave came 2 days later. This one showed how Thesson had fabricated the evidence. The doctored footage. The planted DNA. The witnesses who had been paid to lie. The third wave showed Archon Savethi's direct involvement. Messages he had sent. Orders he had given. Money he had paid to make the problem disappear. Valoria Prime exploded. Protests filled the streets. Opposition leaders demanded answers. The government tried to control the story, but it was too late. The truth was everywhere, and it could not be stopped. In the middle of this chaos, Elena walked into High Inquisitor Thesson's office. He was sitting at his desk, looking at the disaster unfolding on his screens. His face was gray, his hands were shaking. Everything he had built was falling apart. And then he looked up and saw the human woman standing in front of him. Thesson reached for his weapon, but Elena was faster. She crossed the room in 2 steps and took the gun from his hand before he could even touch it. She placed it on his desk, out of his reach, and then sat down in the chair across from him. "Hello, Inquisitor," she said. "We need to talk." "You," he whispered. "You are doing this. All of it." "Yes." Elena's voice was calm and flat. "You took my son. You destroyed his life for your career. Did you think there would be no price?" Thesson stared at her. He had spent his whole life studying criminals, reading their faces, understanding their minds. But he could not read this woman. Her eyes were like ice. Her face showed nothing. "What do you want?" he asked. "I want my son released. Within 48 hours. You will give the order. You will make it happen." "Impossible," Thesson said. "Even if I wanted to, I cannot just—" "I am not asking what is possible," Elena interrupted. "I am telling you what will happen. In 48 hours, my son will be free. If he is not, I will continue what I have started. I will not stop until there is nothing left of you. Not your career, not your reputation, not your life." She leaned forward. "You think you understand humans, Inquisitor. You read our history. You see violence and chaos and emotion. You think we are primitives who cannot control ourselves." She paused. "You miss the point. We did not survive our history despite our violence. We survived because when someone takes what we love, we do not stop. We do not negotiate. We wait." and then we take everything back, with interest. She stood up. 48 hours. After that, I stopped being polite. She walked to the door and stopped. She did not turn around. One more thing, she said. I know about your daughter. The one you sent to live on the outer colonies where no one would find her. I know her name. I know her address. I know where she goes to school. Thessen's blood went cold. I am not a monster, Elena continued. I will not hurt children. But I want you to understand something. There is nowhere you can hide from me. There is nothing you can protect from me. If my son dies, I will spend the rest of my life making sure you lose everything that matters to you. And I am very, very patient. She left without another word. Thessen sat alone in his office for a long time. Outside, the protests continued. Inside, his world was falling apart. He thought about the cold certainty in the human woman's eyes. He thought about the tokens that appeared in impossible places. He thought about all the security systems that had failed to stop her. And for the first time in his long and powerful life, High Inquisitor Thessen felt real fear. The clock was ticking. 48 hours. He did not know what to do. The 48 hours passed. High Inquisitor Thessen did not release Marcus Vance. It was not courage that stopped him. It was pride. He had spent his whole life building power, crushing enemies, winning every battle. He could not accept that one human woman could defeat him. He told himself that she was bluffing. One person against an empire? Impossible. He was half right. Elena was not going to tear down an empire. She was going to tear down him. On the night the deadline ended, Elena made her move. The erasure facility was built into a mountain far from the capital city. It had no windows. It had only one entrance, guarded by 50 soldiers and surrounded by energy walls. Inside, sensors watched every room. Cameras recorded every movement. The most dangerous criminals in the galaxy were kept here, and not one of them had ever escaped. Elena arrived alone. She had spent the past 2 days studying the facility. She knew every guard rotation. She knew every camera position. She knew every weakness in the system. Vathorn had given her access codes. Her other contacts had given her equipment. But most importantly, she had given the Valorians something else to worry about. At exactly midnight, the protests in the capital turned violent. Someone had spread a rumor that the government was planning to arrest the opposition leaders. The crowds surged toward the government buildings. The security forces rushed to control the situation, and in the confusion, nobody noticed the old cargo shuttle landing in the mountains. Elena moved through the facility like smoke through fingers. The guards at the outer wall never saw her. She came from a direction their cameras did not cover, using a blind spot she had identified from satellite images. The energy wall had a gap that lasted for exactly 3 seconds every hour when the system reset. She timed her entry perfectly. Inside, she was a ghost. She walked down corridors filled with cameras, but she knew exactly where to step so the cameras could not see her. She passed guard stations by waiting until the guards looked away, then moving so quickly and quietly that she was gone before they looked back. 3 guards did see her. They never had a chance to raise the alarm. Elena's hands moved faster than thought, pressing nerve points she had learned 30 years ago. The guards dropped silently, unconscious before they hit the floor. She found Marcus in a cell deep underground. Her son was lying on a metal bed, connected to machines by dozens of wires. His eyes were open but empty. The erasure process had already begun. Pieces of his memory, his personality, his soul were being pulled apart. Elena looked at him for a long moment. Her face did not change. But inside, something broke and then hardened into something stronger than steel. She would save him, or she would burn this place to the ground. The machines were complicated, but Elena had studied xenobiology for 20 years. She knew how to disconnect them without killing her son. It took 5 minutes that felt like 5 hours. When the last wire came free, Marcus blinked. "Mom?" he whispered. His voice was weak and confused. "What? Where?" "Later," Elena said. "We need to go." She helped him stand. He could barely walk. The erasure had taken something from him, she did not know how much. But he was alive. He was breathing. The rest would come later. Getting out was harder than getting in. The alarms had finally started. Guards were running through the corridors. Lights were flashing. Voices were shouting, but Elena had planned for this too. She did not try to escape quietly. Instead, she made noise. She set off explosions in the opposite direction from where she was going. She triggered false alarms that sent guards running to empty rooms. She created chaos, and in the chaos, she disappeared. By the time the security forces figured out what had happened, Elena and Marcus were already in the cargo shuttle, flying away from the mountain. But she was not done yet. As the shuttle flew toward the smuggler's route that would take them off the planet, Elena pressed a button on a device in her pocket. All across Valoria Prime, every screen, every terminal, every display suddenly showed the same image: Elena's face. "My name is Elena Vance," she said. Her voice was calm and clear. "Some of you knew me by another name. I was called the Winter Protocol." Across the planet, millions of Valorians stopped to watch. In the capital, in the small towns, in the government buildings where leaders were trying to control the chaos, everyone watched. "Your leaders convicted my son of a crime he did not commit. They did this to destroy humanity's reputation. They did this for politics and pride and power. And when I came to ask for justice, they refused." On the screen, footage began to play. It showed Elena moving through the erasure facility. Every locked door she opened. Every camera she passed unseen. Every guard who never saw her coming. The most secure prison in the galaxy, beaten by a single human woman. "I want you to remember something," Elena continued. "We humans do not have claws or telepathy or 1,000-year lifespans. We are small. We are fragile. We live short lives in your ancient galaxy." She paused. "But we have patience. We have memory. And when you hurt our children, we have nothing left to lose. I came here alone because one of me was enough." Her eyes seemed to look through the screen, directly at every Valorian watching. "Imagine what happens when you give all of us a reason." The screen went black. The message was over. But its effects were just beginning. The Valorian government collapsed within a month. Not because of Elena. Because of the rot she had exposed. The corruption, the lies, the cover-ups, all of it came spilling out into the light. High Inquisitor Thesson faced his own tribunal. He was convicted of fabricating evidence and destroying an innocent man's life. His sentence was erasure. Archon Sevathi took his own life rather than face public disgrace. His family name was ruined forever. The new government, desperate to avoid any more human attention, formally declared Marcus Vance innocent. They offered Earth a seat on the Galactic Concord. They promised that nothing like this would ever happen again. Whether they meant that promise, Elena did not know. She did not care. She took Marcus home to Siberia. The cabin was waiting, just as she had left it. Snow on the ground, fire in the fireplace, the quiet peace of a simple life. Marcus recovered slowly. The erasure process had taken some of his memories. Faces he no longer recognized. Moments from his past that were simply gone. He would never be exactly who he was before, but he was alive. He was free. He was home. One night, weeks after their return, Marcus asked his mother about her past, about the name the Valorians had called her, about the things she had done before he was born. Elena sat by the fire and told him everything. The missions, the kills, the lives she had taken to protect humanity. The blood on her hands that would never wash away. When she was done, Marcus was quiet for a long time. "Why did you stop?" he asked finally. Elena looked at him. Her son, her light, the only good thing she had ever created. "Because of you," she said. "I wanted you to grow up in a world where people did not need to do what I did. I wanted you to be better than me." Marcus reached out and took her hand. "You saved me," he said. "You fought an empire for me. How could I ever think you are anything but good?" Elena did not answer. She just held her son's hand and watched the fire burn. In her mind, she thought about the case beneath the floor. The suit. The mask. The tools of the Winter Protocol. She had put them away again. She hoped she would never need them again. But she knew the truth. The galaxy had learned something about humanity. They had learned that humans were not just violent or chaotic or emotional. They were patient. They remembered. They never gave up, and when you took what they loved, they came for you, not with armies or fleets or weapons of war. They came quietly, in the night, like the cold creeping into your bones. By the time you felt it, it was already too late. Outside the cabin, snow was falling. The night was silent and peaceful. A mother and son sat by the fire, together again. Alive against all odds, the winter protocol had done her work. Earth's coldest killer had knocked on their door, and the galaxy would never forget it. Some fires burn hot and fast and bright, but the cold is patient. The cold lasts forever.